feel it? The shift in energy, the way the air changes when you enter into a room, the way your gaze lingers for a little longer. They may not say it out, but you know the game has changed. The same individuals who previously discarded you, misjudged, and neglected you. Now they're circling back, calling your name in areas they used to swear you'd never visit. But here is the reality. They will not acknowledge you were never supposed to knock on their doors. You were supposed to create your own empire. And now the bidding battle starts. Not for power, prestige, or fortune, but for closeness to you. They notice what you're carrying. They know what you provide. And they recognize that associating with you gives them access to something they can't buy or make. True, unmistakable, and unstoppable presence. But let them to bid. Let them scurry. Let them attempt to purchase something that was never for sale. Because you're not a pawn in their game. You're the force they didn't expect. And as they struggle for a seat at your table, they are unaware that you were never searching for their approval in the first place. You were already picked. And selected ones do not seek permission to climb. Please leave a remark if you've ever felt the change. When those who had questioned you suddenly wanted in. How did you manage it? Let us chat about it. What starts as a simple acknowledgement evolves into an unseen struggle. A conflict in which status, perception, and quiet discussions take center stage. The conflict is not about adoration or friendliness. It's a deliberate attempt to impose power over something beyond their control. You do not seek approval, nor do you manipulate for their benefit, but because an inescapable truth hovers in the background. Whoever sides with you obtains an advantage. You were never meant to take part in their debates. However, your name permeates closed-door conversations, emerging between calculated looks and deliberate judgments. They examine you in the same manner that one would dissect an unexpected occurrence, analyzing factors, quantifying results, and looking for a pattern that does not exist. In their universe, power is planned, not discovered, and impacts are spread long before anybody is aware of it. So when people notice you, it is not with acclaim or acknowledgement, but rather with disguised inquiry and increasing anxiety. They first dismiss it as a coincidence, a temporary aberration in a system designed to be resilient to unpredictability. However, as time passes, their uncertainty fades and their pain becomes more intense. This isn't luck, and it's definitely not stupidity. You move without asking permission, and this alone makes you a force they cannot afford to ignore. Power has always followed a script, with each climb well planned and every figure carefully positioned inside a system meant to favor the predictable. However, you operate outside of these limits. You exist as if the mechanics are unimportant, and that disturbance causes ripples across the very foundation on which they stand. They watch, conjecture, and analyze. However, the more they try to define you, the more you fall outside their framework. What remains a mystery cannot be manipulated, and this understanding upsets them in ways they won't confess. You become an unstated variable in their equation, whose presence disrupts the usual sequence of events. Every interaction, every meeting, and every apparently innocuous statement carries an unsaid question. How did you get around the rules? More importantly, what does this signify for them? But they refuse to admit that the minute they made you the topic of their chats, they gave up the illusion of control. They are not considering strategies to integrate you. They are rushing to figure out your next move. You're not here by chance. If you sense a tug, a deep feeling that you have been selected, now is your time. Click the super thank you button and contribute $1 or more to get deeper insights, unique information, and a path that fits with your divine destiny. This is not only a gift, it's a proclamation, a step toward being the person you were intended to be. Take the call, walk with us, and totally embrace your destiny. Your adventure starts now. Eventually, one of them makes the leap. Caution and conjecture have lost their allure. Observation is no longer sufficient. A planned offer appears, painstakingly constructed, wrapped in exclusivity, and offered as an opportunity. It's too enticing to resist. This isn't an olive branch. It is an implicit claim, a calculated move to secure a place before anybody else can. They anticipate the typical answer. Intrigue, gratitude, an instant understanding of the scope of what is being expanded. But there's no hurry, no enthusiastic acceptance. There is no discernible alteration in manner. The subsequent quiet, however, is not hesitation. It is power. Many are called, but only a few are chosen. Hello, Matthew. Consider a feast table surrounded by gilded halls packed with people who feel they control the world. The mighty sit on their chairs, heads raised high, certain that they would be the ones to feast forever. They have built their kingdoms on control, secret negotiations, and the calm assurance that no one will ascend unless they let it. But as you go in, everything changes. See, they believe they had the last word. They believe they were dictating. Who gets access? Who obtains favors? Who is invited inside the rooms where choices are made? However, they never anticipated a force outside of their design. They never expected someone who did not beg, who wouldn't sell their value for an invitation to a table that was never meant for them in the first place. The moment has arrived. The equilibrium crumbles. The same people who formerly set the rules now stand paralyzed, watching as the authority they held so securely slips through their fingers. Their whole system was based on the concept that influence is something that must be earned and negotiated, fought over like leftovers from the king's supper. But then you did something inconceivable. You did nothing. The quiet scared them. In a world where everyone else is moving, impatient to ascend, eager to be seen, and frantic to establish a position, you stay strong and unaffected. And it disturbs them in ways they cannot describe. Because of what? They can't move. They lack control. Their instincts warn them something isn't right. Their plans begin to falter. Because if someone does not ask their permission or refuses to play their game, if someone does not need them, they are no longer in authority. And now they're in a panic. At first, they take the traditional paths. A better offer, a stronger bargain. A promise coated in gold. More access, more influence, and more hands extended, waiting for you to accept what was never intended to hold you. But it is not a gift. This is a claim, an effort to tie you, to include you into the system they created so that what they cannot prevent, they can at least manage. But you don't accept the bait. And that's when haste becomes desperation. Behind closed doors, the voices change. The modest chase has turned into an all-out conflict. Not because you begged for it or wanted it, but because they finally realized you were never a choice. You were the reward. And now they're battling for something they'll never possess. Allow them to bid. Let them scurry. Let them strive to keep what was never theirs to claim. Because the instant they attempted to purchase what was freely given to you, they lost. They see it now. You were never a candidate in their system. You caused the interruption that revealed it. However, not everyone who approaches expresses appreciation. Some want alignment in order to obtain closeness, thinking that affiliation alone will solidify their own stature. They see themselves strengthened by your presence, untouchable in a changing world where authority is being redefined. However, some do not want to stand by you. They want to demolish you. They will not enter with open animosity or unresolved threats. They will arrive as allies, providing warmth, making goodwill gestures, and speaking in disarming tones. They'll put you to the test, sending messengers wrapped in trust. Figures who use your language, represent your ideas, and pretend to have been on your journey long before you arrived. But underlying their polite phrases lies just calculating. They are here to dissect you, to uncover what has gone unseen, and to map out your weaknesses. Even you haven't considered it. When delicate manipulation fails to produce results, when no fissures can be exploited, the strategy changes. The presents come, luxury items wrapped in the guise of charity, invitations that smack of elitism, promises fashioned from gold. However, underneath each gift is an unsaid commitment. There are no gifts in their world, only transactions under disguise. When one is approved, the terms are determined. What they provide is never free. What they seek in exchange is surrender. Those who move with clarity can detect dishonesty long before it reaches them. They know the difference between an open door and a gilded trap. They see a spark of uneasiness beneath well-rehearsed grins. The calm intensity was woven into casual motions, and the polished elegance concealed an undertone of uneasiness. These donations aren't presents. They are anchors imbued with the expectation of control. When no explanation is provided, and the bait is left undisturbed, the shift starts. Those who assume they are untouchable, the builders of influence, begin to unveil what they have worked so hard to hide. The disguise was never intended to be disclosed, since their success has always been based on one basic reality. Their target should not identify the hunter. However, the error occurred well before the game started. They never wanted just access, never pursued mere association. What they really wanted was the aspect that put you beyond their grasp. The power that makes you impenetrable, the instinct that shatters their illusions before they ever begin. They think that by mimicking your gestures, mirroring your presence, or standing near enough for long enough, they will absorb the spirit of what you convey. Power, however, cannot be borrowed. It must be earned through experience, knowledge, and unwavering alignment. It cannot be taken by riches, acquired via rank, or duplicated through meticulous imitation. This is what bothers them, since their society is based on the notion that everything is transactional, that no force exists outside their power to own, shape, and dominate the framework on which they have depended for centuries. The quiet arrangements, concealed agreements, and whispered exchanges that maintain their dominion are challenged by something they cannot fathom. What is beyond price is beyond their power, and they are aware that no offer, inducement, or hidden bargaining can alter. That is their worst dread. You're here for a purpose. If you feel called, answer it. Click join to get access to rare information, in-depth insights, and a strong community. This is not just a membership. It is an awakening. Step into your divine mission. Join the chosen. Nonetheless, they persevere. They keep an eye on things. They do analyses. They position themselves close, trying to absorb what they cannot provide. They weave themselves into the places you occupy, believing that mere proximity would enough. But no matter how many steps they take, how many phrases they practice, or how many actions they do, something is lacking, since this force is neither a title to be claimed nor an asset to be wielded. It is a presence, a weight that cannot be replicated, an unwavering authority. That is what disturbs them. No matter what they promise or how big their endeavors are, they will never achieve their goals. They were never intended to. They have stayed unopposed for as long as they have dictated the trajectory of power, influencing who rises and who falls out of favor. They have chosen the individuals on the stage, coordinated the rise and fall of identities, and created narratives to mold the world as they see fit. Until today, that equilibrium had not been upset. No weapon made against you will flourish. The name is Isaiah. Imagine a lion standing in the midst of a storm, unshaken and unyielding, watching the winds howl and the rain fall, but never moving. The other animals fled, scrambling for cover, giving in to the pandemonium around them. But the lion stays steady, knowing that no matter how fierce the storm, it would never be powerful enough to dislodge him. That's you. They do not grasp it. They've spent their lives studying how individuals bend, how fear shrinks others, and how power compels others to pursue. But you do not bend. You do not shrink. You do not pursue. This puzzles them. Because this world is based on conformity, people are trained to seek acceptance and permission before molding themselves into whatever form is necessary to fit in. But you refuse. You wander anywhere you wish and talk when you want. Move on your own terms. And this makes you dangerous. Not because you want to undermine their system, but because you live outside of it. They've created their universe around manipulation. They've mastered the art of control, silent contracts, and hidden threads that entice individuals before they know they've been trapped. But every time they grab for you or attempt to entice you into their loop, something prevents them. At first, they assumed it was a coincidence. They tried again. A door that should have been locked swung open for you. A trap placed in secrecy crumbled before you could enter it. Their skillfully crafted illusions dissipated before your eyes could adapt to the light. They are presently unsettled, because this is not about strategy. It's not about money, influence, or connections. It is about something larger, something people cannot identify, touch, or take. Every time they attempt to move against you, they are confronted by an unseen force, a barrier they cannot overcome. They can feel the hand but cannot see it. They do not want to confess it, but they understand you were never intended to be controlled. They have based their universe around predictability. They understand what consumers desire, what causes their weakness, what pushes them to obey. They have spent decades ensuring that no one rises unless they let it. But you're the exception. You were not trained in their halls, not shaped by their hands. Their system does not offer you power, and that scares them. Because if you cannot be persuaded by fear, purchased with money, or broken by pressure, you are not like them. And if you are not like them, their system ceases to be absolute. So they observe, they wait, they whisper, they send their proposals packaged in gold, expecting you'll bite. Because if they can't beat you, they'll have to persuade you that you need them. But they don't grasp this. You never did. They are now aware of this as well. They were left without their regular tools. They try a new way. Instead of forcing your obedience, they attempt to claim you by invitation, exclusive agreements, strategic alliances, and whispered pledges that together they can gain greater dominance. They present it as a partnership, a cooperation, and a start towards something more. But below the polished phrases, the meaning is apparent. They are attempting to integrate you into their system, to connect you to a structure they control, and to convince you that influence must be bargained rather than something you already have. However, they are unable to realize this. You were never supposed to belong to them. What you carry cannot be exchanged, allocated, or possessed. It exists beyond of their world's restrictions and grasp. And that is what bothers them the most, since they have never encountered anything they could not acquire. The balance alters in ways they never expected. The techniques that formerly compelled people to follow them will disintegrate in your presence. They no longer impose conditions. Instead, they stumble. They are revising their offerings and fine-tuning their language, adjusting their approach in a frantic effort to fit you into their mold. They assure themselves that this time it will work, that this deal differs. This is a unique chance. This union is unavoidable. However, persuasion is not what they desire. It is possession. And when you refuse to believe the lie, when you stay unimpressed by their disguised efforts to exert control, the mask starts to slide under the surface of planned charm and polished invites. Another reality emerges. They do not provide you power. They are attempting to recover their own, because they now know the truth. They are not the planners of your journey, and this understanding upends all they've created. They never molded or controlled you. Never a figure intended to be positioned for their convenience. The game they have always controlled is no longer relevant since you are never playing it. Their environment was designed to exclude and elevate those they did not possess. Only those who are prepared to comply have established who has power and who has lost it, who rises and who stays invisible throughout decades. Each step has been precisely planned. Every consequence was designed to defend their rule. But then you came, and the foundation they once stood on began to crumble. They begin by classifying you to determine if you are a danger, an ally to eliminate, a recruit, or an abnormality to ignore. But you met none of their expectations. You do not seek validation. You do not negotiate admittance. You don't react to their subtle orders. And that scares them. Without control, the fundamental nature of their power fades. What exactly does it mean to wield power? Is there anybody beyond its reach? What happens when they lose control of authority? What happens when their system is no longer the defining factor in success? They turn due to a lack of alternative choices. You are no longer in charge of the selection process. They now want to be picked. The same forces that previously formed empires now determine fortunes and choreograph whole enterprises. Now I am an unknown area, trying to unite with you. The hierarchy that has governed for so long is crumbling, not because you struggled to join it, but because you demonstrated that it was never required. And it is what makes me nervous the most. They believed they were the gatekeepers, that their approval defined the worth, that their appreciation was the ultimate kind of affirmation. However, they made a mistake when calculating your value using their narrow criteria. You never waited for their acknowledgement. They believed they could determine the conditions of your promotion. But the reality was clear. You never sought permission in the first place. The discarded stone has become the cornerstone of several structures. They created their universe assuming they had the last word. deciding who will ascend, who falls, who gets access, who remains invisible. They fashion power like clay, sculpting it to suit their needs, convinced that no one could stand without their consent. But now the unspeakable has occurred. Their foundation is crumbling. Their undeniable power is dwindling. And the ones who remain standing, they never needed them in the first place. At first, they disregarded you. You were not part of their design, not someone they'd selected, not someone they had cultivated. But now, they now realize the reality. They've been using these techniques for generations. Manipulation and control. Exclusion no longer works for you. They can't purchase what you're carrying, cannot imitate what you have. They cannot compel you to fit their mold. You are the only variable. They never accounted for the one thing they couldn't control. And now, in their desperation, they look to you not for help, but for survival. Because without you, they would be lost. Let them fight. Let them scurry. Let them whisper. They formerly rejected what they are now pursuing. And now they see that you were never intended to fit into their world. You were supposed to redefine it. Initially, they sought to lure you in on their terms. They dispatched their envoys dressed in sophisticated language. Their best manipulators, equipped with alluring offers. Their architects of influence were ready to build a new framework that would incorporate you under their terms. Their approach had an undeniable sense of urgency. They no longer offered these invitations from a position of power, but out of need, as they now realized. Those who do not move with genuine strength will not survive what follows. Their identities, titles, and carefully constructed hierarchies are meaningless in the face of the upheaval. They cannot forecast, quantify, or tame. The only thing left to do is to commit to something meaningful before being abandoned. But their error was believing you could be persuaded, that your existence could be protected as an advantage, and that they could shape you into a useful ally. They never regarded you as an equal, simply as a means to extract a name and raise their own. A beacon they could rely on to stay relevant. They thought that everything had a price, and that the appropriate offer would suffice. That power, like everything else in their society, could be purchased. However, they never thought that what you carry is beyond their grasp. They wanted you to comply, to seek their affirmation, and to perceive their influence as something worth associating with. However, they made an error in their calculations. They spent so long comparing your value to theirs that they never recognized you had already outperformed them. And by the time the reality became clear, it was too late. The people to whom they previously imposed conditions are now defining their own destiny. There is no amount that will sway you. There are no titles that will intrigue you. There is no illusion powerful enough to draw you into their clutches. You do not function inside the framework that they created. Do not follow the regulations that they impose. Do not respond to the expectations they have for others. That puts you outside their grasp. They will never openly accept it, never speak the words they now comprehend in quiet. However, the awareness has already taken hold. True callers cannot be possessed. That indicates they never had a chance. Let them scurry. Allow them to create new strategies for gaining closeness. Allow them to maneuver in desperation, claiming something that was never theirs. You stay stable and unmoved because you are never a part of the competition. You will never knock on their doors, seek their approval, or lower yourself to fit into a world that was never designed to hold you. They mistaken your presence for something fleeting, something they might seize, something that, like everything else, had a price. Now, as they see the power they once held slide through their fingers, they murmur your name in places that previously ignored you. As they change their methods to coincide with your orbit, they are forced to face unexpected challenges. You never asked for a seat. You were the foundation they all required, but you could never say your value was dependent on what others could supply. It was in what they were unable to take. Your presence was never intended to strengthen their position. It was intended to disclose the truth, expose the hollowness of all they created. And now they can't deny that they need you. However, you do not need them. Your presence easily alters the course of events, attracting people who are supposed to accompany you while repelling those who lack substance. There's nothing to pursue. There's nothing to prove. Nothing ties you. The unqualified will constantly look for a way in. However, They no longer have authority over the doors they formerly kept closed. They can feel it now, whether it inspires adoration, contempt, or obsession. They will not be able to forget you. Have you ever seen someone exhibit their desperation after losing access to you? Share your experiences. What was the most surprising manner someone demonstrated that they needed you more than they previously admitted? Let us talk.